Admiral Jake Martinez stood at the viewing window of the space station, watching the blue and white planet Aquinas slowly turn below. The station called Harmony's Edge floated in the empty space. Between three star systems, it was neutral ground, where different alien races could meet without fear. Today was important. Very important. Jake wore his best military uniform, the dark blue fabric pressed sharp and clean. On his chest were rows of medals from battles across the galaxy. The aliens expected to see those medals. They expected to see a soldier, nothing more. Jake was happy to let them think that. Behind him, 12 other humans moved around the station's main bay. To anyone watching, they looked like basic military staff. Lisa Carter carried data tablets and looked busy with supply lists. Danny Ross worked on communication equipment. Amy Stone organized food supplies for the human quarters. They all wore simple uniforms with low ranks marked on their shoulders. The aliens saw exactly what they wanted to see. The first delegation arrived in a ship that looked like it was made of crystal. The Zilani were tall beings who seemed to be carved from living glass. Their leader, HFY, moved with slow, careful steps. When he spoke, his voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. Admiral Martinez, HFY said when they met in the docking bay. His tone was polite but distant. "We are pleased that Earth has sent military protection for this summit." Jake nodded and smiled. "Thank you, Ambassador. My people are here to serve." The Zilani ambassador looked at the humans standing nearby. Lisa was pretending to have trouble with her data tablet. Danny appeared confused by a simple repair tool. Amy dropped a supply box and looked embarrassed. "Yes," HFY said slowly. "Humans make excellent soldiers. Simple minds, strong bodies. Perfect for fighting. We do our best," Jake replied, keeping his voice humble. More ships arrived throughout the day. The Morphans came in vessels that looked like giant balloons. They breathed different air than most species, so they wore clear masks over their faces. Their leader, Ambassador Vexter, wheezed when he talked, but seemed more friendly than the crystal beings. The third group was the strangest. The Kithra all looked exactly the same, as if someone had made copies of the same person. They moved together and sometimes spoke at the same time. Their hive mind made them think as one, but it also made them hard to understand. All three alien groups treated the humans the same way. They were polite but talked to Jake as if he was a child. They asked simple questions and spoke slowly. When Jake asked about trade routes or resource sharing, they would smile and say things like, "Don't worry about the complicated parts," or "We'll handle the thinking." The real summit began that evening in a large conference room. The walls were covered with star maps and trade charts. 3 long tables formed a triangle, with each alien delegation at one point. The humans sat at a small table to the side, like students watching adults work. "The primary issue," HFY announced, "is the expansion of shipping lanes through the Gamma sector. The mathematics are quite complex." Ambassador Vexter wheezed agreement. "Yes, the profit calculations alone require advanced processing, perhaps too advanced for some species to follow." Jake leaned forward slightly. "Could you explain the basics? My people might be able to help with security planning." The aliens exchanged looks. The Kithra spoke in their strange united voice. "Security is simple. Put soldiers here, put soldiers there. The real work is economic planning, trade balancing, resource distribution mathematics." "Of course," Jake said. "We'll focus on the soldier stuff." While the aliens talked, Lisa quietly worked on her tablet. To anyone watching, she looked like she was taking notes or maybe playing a simple game. Actually, she was recording everything through hidden sensors built into her device. Every word, every gesture, every casual comment about human limitations was being stored and analyzed. The summit was supposed to last for 5 days. The aliens planned to spend most of that time explaining basic concepts to the humans, while they handled the real negotiations among themselves. They had done this before with other species. They considered less intelligent. As the first day ended, Jake walked with his team back to their quarters. The hallways were quiet, and their footsteps echoed off the metal walls. Once they were safely inside their rooms, the humans dropped their simple act. "They really think we're idiots," Danny said, shaking his head. "Good," Lisa replied. already. Pulling up the recordings on a larger screen. The more they underestimate us, the better this works. Jake sat down and looked at the data Lisa had gathered. Hidden in her simple note-taking were detailed analysis charts, psychological profiles of each alien delegate, and complete breakdowns of their negotiating strategies. "What did you think of the Zalani resource demands?" he asked. "Completely unreasonable," Lisa answered. "They want 40% more mining rights than their population growth justifies. They're planning to sell the extra resources to someone else." Amy looked up from her own tablet. "The Morphin shipping requests don't make sense either. They're asking for routes through empty systems, no colonies, no trade stations, nothing worth shipping to. And the Kithra keep mentioning defensive preparations," Danny added. "That's military talk, not trade talk." Jake nodded slowly. Something was definitely wrong with this summit. The aliens were hiding their real plans behind all the talk about humans being too simple to understand. But humans had been playing this game for much longer than any of them realized. "Keep watching and recording," Jake told his team. "Tomorrow we'll see what they're really up to." As the humans settled in for the night, none of the alien delegations suspected the truth. The simple soldiers they ignored were actually some of Earth's most skilled intelligence officers. The confused staff members fumbling with basic equipment were experts in their fields. The humble military escorts were gathering information that would reshape the entire galaxy's balance of power. The aliens thought they were dealing with primitive warriors. They had no idea they were being hunted by the most dangerous predators humanity had ever produced. And tomorrow, the real game would begin. The second day of the summit started with an unexpected visitor. Jake Martinez was eating breakfast in the human quarters when Lisa Carter rushed in with her tablet. "Admiral, we have a problem," she said, but her voice was loud enough for any listening devices to hear. She was still playing her role as a simple aide. "There's a new ship coming in. The duty officer says I need to file extra paperwork." Jake looked at the tablet screen. A sleek black vessel was approaching the station. Its design was unlike anything in their databases. The ship moved too smoothly, almost like it was swimming through space instead of flying. "Did they send word ahead?" Jake asked. "No, sir. They just appeared and asked for permission to dock. The station commander approved it. Within an hour, the new ship had attached itself to one of the station's docking ports. The airlock opened and a figure stepped through that made everyone in the bay go quiet. The newcomer looked almost human, but something was wrong. His skin was too pale, almost white like fresh snow. When he moved, his body seemed to flow like water. His eyes were completely black, with no color at all. He wore simple gray robes that shifted and changed color slightly as he walked. "I am Ambassador Thane Korvax of the Syndros Empire," he announced to the station commander. His voice was smooth and pleasant, but it made people want to listen even when they tried not to. "I bring greetings from our distant worlds." The alien delegations were excited to meet this new species. The Zalani crystal being, Zex High, practically glowed with interest. "We have never heard of the Syndros Empire. Where are your worlds located?" "Far beyond the edge of your current maps," Korvax replied with a smile that showed teeth to sharp and to white. "We have been watching the galaxy for some time. Now we wish to join your civilized discussions." Ambassador Vexter wheezed through his breathing mask. "What brings you to our summit?" "Concern," Korvax said simply. "Concern about the direction galactic politics is taking." Jake and his team watched from the side of the docking bay. They had learned to read alien body language over the years, and something felt wrong about this Korvax person. The way he stood, the way he looked at people, the way others seemed drawn to his voice. "Lisa," Jake said quietly, "start recording everything about our new friend." "Already on it, sir," she whispered back, her tablet now running full sensor. Scans disguised as routine security checks. The summit resumed in the afternoon, but now there were four groups around the triangle of tables. Korvax had been given a place of honor, and the other aliens seemed eager to hear what he had to say. "The galaxy faces many challenges," Korvax began, his hypnotic voice filling the room. "Trade disputes, resource conflicts, territorial disagreements. But I believe there is a deeper problem that threatens us all." Zex High leaned forward, his crystal body catching the light. "What problem is that, Ambassador?" Korvax turned to look directly at the human table. "The problem of a species that cannot be trusted with power." Jake felt his team tense around him, but he kept his face calm and confused. "I'm sorry, Ambassador. Are you talking about us?" "Indeed I am," Korvax replied smoothly. "The humans have been granted significant military authority throughout the galaxy. They control defense fleets, guard important stations, and have access to sensitive information. But what do we really know about their intentions, Ambassador?" Vexter wheezed uncertainly. "The humans have served faithfully for 30 years. They have honored every agreement, have they?" Korvax asked. "Or have they simply been waiting for the right moment to act against us?" The Kithra spoke in their unified voice. "Humans are simple soldiers. They follow orders. They do not make plans." Korvax smiled that too sharp smile. "Are you certain? Look at their history. They have fought wars against their own species for thousands of years. They have conquered their entire planet through violence and deception. Why should we believe they have changed?" Jake stood up slowly, making sure to look confused and hurt. "Ambassador Korvax, I don't understand. Are you saying we're dangerous?" "We're just here to help with security." "Exactly my point," Korvax replied. "You are here for security. You have access to our defense systems, our communications, our most important meetings." What if that was always the plan? The alien delegates began murmuring among themselves. Jake could see doubt creeping into their expressions. Korvax was very good at this, perhaps. Korvax continued, "It would be wise to discuss these concerns privately, without the humans present." Zex High nodded his crystal head. "A reasonable suggestion. Admiral Martinez, would you and your people excuse us for a few hours?" Jake nodded and smiled. "Of course, we'll be in our quarters if you need anything." As the humans left the conference room, Jake caught a glimpse of Korvax watching them go. There was something cold and calculating in those black eyes, something that reminded Jake of a predator watching prey. Back in their quarters, the humans dropped their act completely. "That was a setup," Danny said immediately. "This Korvax guy didn't just happen to show up. He's here for a reason." Lisa was already analyzing the sensor data from her tablet. "Look at this. His ship has energy signatures that don't match any known technology. And these bio-readings are strange. He looks humanoid, but his internal structure is all wrong." Amy pulled up station schematics on her screen. "I've been tracking movement patterns since he arrived. 3 small ships docked during the night shift. They're registered as supply vessels, but they're not on any regular schedule." Jake studied the information his team had gathered. "How many people came off those ships? Hard to tell." Amy replied, "They used cargo containers for transfer. Could be supplies, could be passengers, or could be weapons." Danny added darkly. Jake made a decision. "Lisa, I want full surveillance on our new friend. Danny, start monitoring all communications going in and out of the station. Amy, map every person who's come aboard in the last 48 hours. "What about maintaining our cover?" Lisa asked. "Keep playing stupid," Jake said, "but start preparing for trouble." Meanwhile, in the conference room, Korvax was addressing the alien delegates with growing intensity. "The human military expansion has been systematic," he said, displaying holographic star maps. "Look at their fleet positions. Look at their base locations. They have surrounded your most important worlds." "Those are defensive positions," Vexter wheezed. "Protection against pirates and raiders, or preparation for invasion," Korvax countered. "Consider this. What if the pirates and raiders were never the real threat? What if they were just an excuse to put human forces wherever they wanted?" The aliens stared at the maps with growing alarm. When viewed from Korvax's perspective, the human military presence did look suspicious. "What do you propose?" asked the Kithra. Korvax's smile grew wider. "A permanent solution to the human problem. Remove them from positions of power before they can act against us." "You mean war?" Zex High asked. "I mean prevention," Korvax replied. "Strike first, strike fast, strike completely. The galaxy will thank us for removing this threat." Only Vexter seemed hesitant. "This seems extreme. Perhaps we should simply reduce their authority gradually." Korvax turned those black eyes on the Morphin ambassador. Ambassador Vexter, with respect, gradual measures allow gradual responses. If the humans are truly planning something, giving them time to prepare would be foolish. As the debate continued, none of the aliens noticed the tiny mechanical insects that had crawled through the air vents. During the night, Lisa's surveillance, drones were smaller than coins and completely silent. Every word of Korvax's speech was being recorded in the human quarters. Jake listened to the audio feed with growing concern. This wasn't just political maneuvering. This was the beginning of a war. And the aliens had no idea they were being manipulated by someone far more dangerous than they realized. "Contact Captain Webb," Jake ordered. "Tell him we might need that backup sooner than expected." The second day of the summit was ending, but Jake knew the real test was just beginning. The aliens thought they were dealing with simple soldiers who could be easily eliminated. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The attack came in the middle of the night when most of the station was quiet. Jake Martinez was not sleeping. He sat in his quarters reviewing the surveillance data Lisa had collected. Something was wrong, and every instinct he had developed over 20 years of dangerous work was screaming warnings at exactly 3 in the morning. Station time. The lights in the human section flickered and went out. "Emergency power activated," announced the station's computer voice. "Minor electrical fault in Section 7. Jake smiled grimly in the darkness. There was no electrical fault. Someone had cut the power to make the humans easier targets. They had no idea that every human on the station could see perfectly in complete darkness, thanks to their enhanced contact lenses. Through the walls, Jake heard the soft whisper of movement, footsteps that were trying to be silent, the sound of weapons being readied. At least 20 people were moving through the corridors outside. Jake pressed a button on his wrist communicator. It sent a silent signal to his team. No words were needed. They had trained for this exact situation hundreds of times. Lisa Carter was already moving through the maintenance tunnels above the main corridors. She had memorized every inch of the station's layout on their first day. To the aliens, she looked like a simple aide who got confused by paperwork. In reality, she had spent 5 years eliminating enemy agents in the darkest corners of human space. Her first target was moving carefully down the hallway below her. The figure wore adaptive camouflage that shifted colors to match the walls. It carried a weapon that fired silent energy beams designed to kill without leaving marks. The assassin was very skilled and very quiet, but not quiet enough. Lisa dropped through a ceiling panel like a ghost, her monomolecular blade, disguised as an ordinary writing pen, sliced through the assassin's throat before he could make a sound. She caught the body as it fell and dragged it into an empty storage room. One down. Many more to go. Danny Ross was in the communications center, where he was supposed to be monitoring routine messages. The assassins expected to find him sitting at a desk, probably scared and helpless. Instead, they found empty air. Danny had been hiding in the ventilation system for an hour, ever since Lisa's sensors detected the first signs of trouble. He watched through a grate as 3 figures in camouflage suits entered the room. They moved like professionals, checking corners and covering each other's movements. The first assassin died when Danny's modified maintenance tool sent 50,000 volts through the metal floor. The second one lasted long enough to see his partner fall before Danny's throwing knife found his heart. The third assassin actually managed to raise his weapon before Danny's second blade opened his skull. Danny looked at the 3 bodies and shook his head. "Amateurs," he whispered. Amy Stone was supposed to be in the supply depot, counting food packages like a good little quartermaster. The 4 assassins who went looking for her found the depot filled with boxes and containers, but no sign of their target. They never saw Amy hanging from the ceiling cables like a spider. She had been there for 2 hours, waiting patiently. When the assassins spread out to search the room, she moved. The first man died when Amy's garrote wire wrapped around his neck. She used his falling body to swing to the next target, her boots, crushing his windpipe. The third assassin turned toward the sound just in time to meet Amy's knee with his face. The fourth assassin was smarter. He dove for cover behind a stack of supply crates and tried to call for backup on his communicator. Amy let him make the call, She wanted the other assassins to know their friends were dying. When the man finished his panicked message, Amy's voice came from somewhere in the darkness. "Your friends can't help you," she said calmly. "They're all dead too." The assassin fired wildly into the shadows, his energy beams lighting up the room in brief flashes. But Amy was no longer where his shots were aimed. She had moved like smoke, circling around behind him. His last sight was Amy's face, calm and professional, as her blade found his heart. Meanwhile, Jake Martinez was having his own conversation with uninvited guests. 6 assassins had come to his quarters, expecting to find a sleeping military commander. Instead, they found Jake sitting calmly in his chair, reading a book by the light of a small lamp. "Good evening, gentlemen," Jake said without looking up from his book. "You're a bit late. I expected you an hour ago." The assassins hesitated. This was not the reaction they had been trained for. "Admiral Martinez," one of them said, his voice muffled by his mask. "You will come with us quietly." "I'm afraid that won't be possible," Jake replied, finally looking up. His eyes were completely calm, like a man discussing the weather. "You see, I have a station to protect and some very rude guests to deal with." The assassins raised their weapons. Jake closed his book and set it carefully on the table beside his chair. "Before you do something you'll regret," Jake said, "you should know that your mission has already failed. 12 of your people are dead. The rest will join them shortly." "Impossible." The lead assassin snarled. "You're just soldiers." Jake smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. That's what everyone thinks. The fight lasted exactly 37 seconds. When it was over, 6 more assassins were dead and Jake didn't have a scratch on him. He straightened his uniform jacket and picked up his book again. Across the station, the pattern repeated. Every group of assassins found their targets missing or ready for them. The humans moved through the darkness like deadly shadows, eliminating threats with surgical precision. The Syndros had brought 30 of their best killers to murder 12 simple soldiers. Within 1 hour, 25 assassins were dead, and the remaining 5 were running for their lives. In his ship, Ambassador Korvax watched the mission status reports with growing horror. Red lights blinked across his display as team after team stopped reporting. "Impossible," he whispered, echoing his dead agents. "They are just soldiers. Simple minds, limited training. This cannot be happening." But it was happening. The humans had turned the station into a hunting ground, and they were the hunters. Jake's voice came over the station's communication system, calm and professional. "Ambassador Korvax, this is Admiral Martinez. I believe we need to have a conversation about your people's behavior tonight. Please report to Conference Room A in 10 minutes. Korvax stared at the communication panel. Half an hour ago, he had been certain the humans would all be dead by now. Instead, his carefully planned assassination had become a massacre of his own forces. For the first time in his long life, Thane Korvax felt genuine fear. What kind of soldiers could do this? What kind of simple minds could turn a surprise attack into a perfectly coordinated defense? As he reluctantly prepared to face Jake Martinez, Korvax began to suspect that everything he thought he knew about humans was completely wrong. And if he was wrong about their military capabilities, what else might he be wrong about? The night was far from over, and the humans were just getting started. The alien delegates huddled together in the main conference room like frightened children. The sounds of fighting had stopped an hour ago, but the silence was somehow worse than the violence. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls, and every small noise made them jump. Zek's high-ass crystal body flickered with nervous energy. What is happening out there? The station security forces should have responded by now. Ambassador Vexter wheezed through his breathing mask. I tried to contact the command center. No response. All communication channels are being blocked. The Kithras spoke in their unified voice, but for the first time it sounded uncertain. Our collective senses detect no movement in the corridors. Either the fighting has ended or everyone is dead. That's impossible, Zexhai said, his voice like breaking glass. Korvax brought 30 professional assassins. The humans are just 12 soldiers with basic training. The door to the conference room suddenly opened with a soft hiss. The aliens turned toward the sound, expecting to see Korvax or his assassins. Instead, Jake Martinez walked in alone. He looked completely calm, as if he had just come from a pleasant dinner, rather than a deadly battle. "Good evening, gentlemen," Jake said politely. He straightened his uniform jacket and walked to his usual seat at the small human table. "I apologize for the disturbance. I hope it didn't interrupt your important discussions." The aliens stared at him in shock. Jake's uniform was still perfectly pressed. His hair was neat and his hands were clean. There was no sign that he had been in any kind of fight. "Admiral Martinez," Zexhai managed to say, "where are Ambassador Korvax's people?" "Dead," Jake replied simply. "All of them." Vexter wheezed in disbelief. "All of them? But there were 30 assassins. Trained killers." "Yes," Jake agreed. "They were quite skilled. Better than most we've encountered. But not nearly good enough." The door opened again and Lisa Carter entered, followed by Danny Ross and Amy Stone. Like Jake, they all looked completely normal. Their uniforms were clean and their expressions were calm. The only difference was that they no longer looked confused or uncertain. Lisa walked directly to the main control panel and began typing commands. "Station systems are back online," she announced. "All external communications are restored. Security protocols are now active." The aliens watched in growing confusion as the humans took control of the room with quiet efficiency. These were not the same people they had been dismissing for 2 days. "I don't understand," the Kithra said. "You are soldiers, simple fighters. How could you defeat 30 assassins?" Jake smiled, but it was not the friendly smile he had worn during the summit. The smile was cold and sharp. "That's the problem with assumptions, Ambassador. They can be very dangerous." Danny moved to another control station and activated the room's main display screen. Images began appearing, showing corridors throughout the station. Bodies lay scattered in various locations, all wearing the same adaptive camouflage suits. "Your friend Korvax made the same mistake," Jake continued. "He saw us as primitive warriors with limited intelligence. He planned his attack based on that assumption." Amy stood by the door, no longer looking like a confused supply officer. Her posture was alert and professional, like a guard expecting more trouble. "The problem is that you've never understood what it means to be human soldiers." Zek's high-ass crystal form was now glowing with agitation. What are you talking about? "We've worked with human military forces for 30 years. "No," Lisa said, looking up from her control panel. "You've worked with what we wanted you to see. You've seen the image we created for you." She pressed a button and new information appeared on the screen. Personnel files. But not the simple records the aliens had seen before. These files showed advanced degrees, specialized training, years of experience in fields the aliens had never suspected. "Lisa Carter," Jake said, pointing to her file. 3 doctoral degrees, xenobiology, quantum mechanics, diplomatic theory. 5 years with Human Intelligence Division, specializing in deep infiltration and target elimination. Lisa nodded to the aliens like she was introducing herself at a party. "I've been analyzing your cultures, your technologies, and your weaknesses since the day we arrived." Danny Ross, Jake continued. "Master's degree in communications and electronic warfare. Former special operations, expert in demolitions and system infiltration." Danny gave a small wave. "I've had access to all your personal communications for the past 2 days." "Very interesting reading." Amy Stone, Jake went on. "Advanced combat, training in 47 different fighting styles. Former deep space reconnaissance, trained in survival and elimination techniques." Amy smiled pleasantly. "I could kill all of you with my bare hands in under 2 minutes. But that would be rude." The aliens looked at each other in growing horror. The simple, confused humans they had been patronizing were revealed as highly trained specialists with capabilities far beyond anything they had imagined. "And you, Admiral," Vexter wheezed. "What is your real background?" Jake stood up and walked closer to the alien delegates. 23 years in Earth's most classified intelligence operations, expert in infiltration, manipulation, and strategic deception. Before I became a simple military commander, I spent a decade eliminating threats that other species never knew existed." The screen changed again, showing star maps with human positions. throughout the galaxy. But now the positions made sense in a completely different way. Every human military base, every garrison, every simple soldier you've dismissed. Jake explained, they're all part of the largest intelligence network in galactic history. We've been watching, learning, and preparing for 30 years. Zek's high-S voice cracked like breaking crystal. Preparing for what? For threats like Korvax and his Syndros Empire, Jake replied. Did you really think we didn't know about them? We've been tracking their ships for months. We knew they were coming to the summit. We knew they would try to eliminate us. Lisa turned from her controls. We let them come. We wanted to see how they operated, what their capabilities were, who their allies might be. You used us as bait, the Kithra accused. We used you as a test, Jake corrected, to see if you could resist Korvax's manipulation, to see if you would stand with us or against us when the pressure came. Danny brought up new displays showing the alien delegates' private conversations from the previous day. Unfortunately, most of you failed that test. The aliens saw themselves on screen, agreeing with Korvax's arguments, nodding along with his plans to eliminate human influence from the galaxy. However, Jake continued, we understand that you were being manipulated by an expert. Korvax's species has natural abilities that make them very persuasive. We don't hold your temporary betrayal against you. Amy stepped forward. But we do need to discuss new arrangements. The old system, where you treated us like simple hired muscle, is over. The screen now showed images of Korvax's ship, surrounded by human vessels that had appeared from nowhere. The aliens gasped as they saw the size of the human fleet. Captain Webb and his people have secured the Syndros vessel, Jake announced. Korvax and his remaining crew are now prisoners. We'll be questioning them about their empire's plans and capabilities. Vexter wheezed slowly. What happens now? Jake returned to his seat, his expression becoming more businesslike. Now we have a real conversation, not the simple trade discussions you planned, but a genuine alliance meeting between equals. Equals? Zex High asked. Oh yes, Lisa said, smiling. You see, gentlemen, you've been thinking about this all wrong. You believed you were the advanced civilizations graciously allowing primitive humans to serve you. But the truth is quite different. Jake nodded. The truth is that humanity has been protecting galactic civilization from threats you never even knew existed. The pirates we fought, the raiders we eliminated, the mysterious disappearances we investigated, all part of a larger pattern that only we had the experience to recognize. Danny pulled up a final display showing intelligence reports spanning decades. Earth has been fighting a shadow war to keep the galaxy stable and safe. You've been living in peace because we made sure the real threats never reached you. Amy's voice was calm but firm. That protection will continue. But the terms of our cooperation are going to change significantly. The aliens sat in stunned silence, trying to process everything they had learned. In the space of one night, their entire understanding of humanity and their place in the galaxy had been turned upside down. Jake looked at each of them carefully. So, gentlemen, shall we begin the real negotiations? 3 hours later, the conference room looked completely different. The emergency lighting had been replaced with normal illumination, and the alien delegates sat around the main table, with new expressions on their faces. The condescending smiles and patronizing attitudes were gone, replaced by careful attention and genuine respect. Jake Martinez stood at the front of the room next to a large display screen. The screen showed a detailed map of the galaxy with hundreds of red markers scattered across different star systems. Each red dot represents a threat that human forces have eliminated over the past 30 years. Jake explained, pirate fleets, slave traders, weapons smugglers, terrorist cells, and worse, things that would have destabilized entire sectors if left unchecked. Zek's high-ass crystal form had stopped flickering with nervous energy. Now he seemed focused and alert. We never knew about most of these incidents. That was the point, Lisa Carter said from her position at the control station. Our job was to handle problems before they became your problems. Clean eliminations, no publicity, no panic. Ambassador Vexter wheezed thoughtfully. The trading convoy that disappeared near Rigel 7 last year. We assumed it was destroyed by asteroids. It was attacked by raiders using stolen military equipment. Danny Ross replied. We tracked them to their base and eliminated the entire operation. The convoy was already lost, but we made sure no other ships would suffer the same fate. Amy. Stone activated another display showing surveillance footage from various locations. The food poisoning outbreak on Kepler Station that was blamed on contaminated supplies. Actually an attempt to test biological weapons on civilian populations. The aliens watched the footage with growing horror. Images showed human operatives moving through station corridors, quietly arresting suspects and confiscating dangerous materials. We neutralized the threat and replaced the contaminated food. With safe supplies, Amy continued, the station authorities never knew what really happened. The Kithra spoke in their unified voice, but now it carried a tone of respect. How many of these operations have you conducted? Jake looked at his tablet. In the past year alone, 417 major operations, thousands of smaller interventions, all designed to keep galactic civilization stable and peaceful. But why hide this from us? Zex-Hi asked. Why pretend to be simple soldiers? Lisa smiled, but it was a kind smile now instead of the cold expression she had worn earlier. Because you weren't ready for the truth. None of your species were. She activated a new display showing historical records. When we first made contact with galactic civilization, we tried being honest about our capabilities. We offered to share our military expertise, our intelligence networks, our strategic planning. The screen showed meeting records from 30 years ago. Human representatives sitting across from alien delegates, presenting detailed proposals and analysis. Your response was fear, Jake said quietly. Not respect, not partnership, fear. You saw humans as a threat that needed to be controlled. Danny brought up more historical documents. The Rigel Accords of 2195, the Centauri Limitations Treaty of 2198, the Vega Restriction Protocols of 2203, all designed to limit human influence and keep us in subordinate roles. Vexter wheezed sadly. We were afraid you would dominate us, so we made a decision, Amy said. If you needed us to be simple soldiers, we would be simple soldiers. If you needed us to appear less intelligent, we would play that role. But we would still do what needed to be done to protect everyone. Jake walked closer to the alien delegates. We spent 30 years building the most sophisticated intelligence and defense network in galactic history, all while letting you believe you were the ones in charge. The screen now showed the current situation. Human ships positioned throughout the galaxy, human operatives in key locations, human intelligence assets monitoring potential threats. Every major trade route is protected by human forces, Lisa explained. Every important station has human security personnel. Every government leader has human advisors watching for threats. But you're not advisors, the Kithra observed. You're guardians, exactly, Jake agreed. We've been the galaxy's immune system, quietly eliminating infections before they could spread. Amy activated a final display showing recent intelligence reports. The Syndros Empire that Korvax represented is just one of dozens of external threats we've been monitoring. There are species out there that make Korvax look friendly. The display showed ships with designs unlike anything the aliens had seen. Massive vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Void Hunters, Danny said grimly, a nomadic species that consumes entire civilizations. They've been moving toward our galaxy for 50 years. The Crystal Plague, Lisa added, showing images of dead worlds covered in strange geometric growths. A weapon left behind by an extinct species that turns living matter into lifeless crystal structures. The Hive Lords, Amy continued, displaying footage of insect-like creatures the size of buildings. A species that breeds by implanting eggs in other life forms, using entire planets as nurseries. The aliens stared at the images in horrified silence. These are the real threats, Jake said. Not trade disputes or territorial arguments. These are the enemies that could end galactic civilization. Completely, Zex-Hi found his voice first. What do you need from us? Jake smiled, and this time it was warm and genuine. Partnership. Real partnership. Not the arrangement we've had where you give us orders and we pretend to follow them. An alliance between equals. Lisa brought up a new document on the screen. The Galactic Defense Charter, a formal agreement that recognizes human intelligence capabilities and gives us the authority to act against major threats. You want us to officially acknowledge your real role, Vexter wheezed. More than that, Danny said. We want you to help us. Your species have capabilities we need. Solani crystal technology for long-range communication. Morphin atmospheric processors for hostile world operations. Kithra collective intelligence for data analysis. Amy nodded. We've been protecting you for 30 years. Now we want you to join us in protecting the galaxy. The aliens looked at each other, then back at the humans. The balance of power had shifted completely, but it didn't feel threatening. It felt like an invitation. What happened to Korvax? Zexhai asked. He's being questioned aboard Captain Webb's ship, Jake replied. We're learning about Syndros' infiltration methods and their plans for this region of space. The information will help us prevent future incidents. And if we agree to this charter, the Kithra asked. Lisa smiled. Then you become part of the real galactic civilization. Not the peaceful trade federation you thought you were building, but the defensive alliance that actually exists. Jake walked back to his seat, but this time he sat at the main table with the alien delegates instead of at the smaller side table. The choice is yours, he said. You can go back to the old arrangement where we pretend to be simple soldiers while secretly protecting you. Or you can acknowledge reality and become true partners in defending everything we've all built. Together, the aliens looked at the evidence displayed around them. 30 years of protection they had never known about. Threats they had never imagined. A human network that had kept them all safe. While they dismissed their protectors as primitive warriors, Ambassador Vexter was the first to speak. Where do we sign? And with those four words, the galaxy changed forever. The age of hidden protection was over. The age of open alliance had begun. The humans were no longer pretending to be simple soldiers. They were ready to show the galaxy what they could really do.